Heavy metal
My
rock.
global mind.
There's nothing you can do to stop that little mountain flame. Each time you touch the ground, you smell it down, you feel the heat again. Your heart is melting, tears stream from your eyes. Can't dose the things that are burning inside. There's nowhere to run to, there's nowhere to hide.
I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on My Global Mind, we're speaking with legendary bassist Billy Sheehan to talk about the latest Talus release, 1985. Billy, welcome. We've never spoken. I'm really excited to speak with you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me here and to spread the good news.
Yes. I really dig in the album. From what I understood from the press release, there's only one song that's brand new on this. Everything was written in 1985. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had quite a collection of songs. There was even quite a few more, probably 20 songs. We chose our top favorites. Then we wanted to include something new. So Phil had a wonderful song that we were performing live, Black and Blue, and another good aspect of it is he invited his son James to sing with him.
Nice.
So Phil was very proud to have his son on the record singing. He's got a great voice, and he did a wonderful job on it. So it was a very wonderful situation.
So how far along were these, I guess, 11 songs, or 10 songs minus the new one, written? How far were they completed? And did you just do remastering, or did you have to do re-recording of them? What was the history?
Well, there was no recording of them at all. Although these are songs we perform live. A lot of times, it happened to me. You put out a record, and then you do a tour, and at the end of the tour, you say, "Could we go back and re-record the record?" Because when you perform it live, the songs really come together. And a lot of bands throughout the years have suffered what they call sophomore jinx. In other words, your second record doesn't do as well as your first, because usually the first record for any band, they're recording songs that they played live for months or even years, and they have them down as part of their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second record, they have 6 months to make it, to write it and make it. So you don't have as much time. So all these songs are songs that were in our set that we performed, and we were performing prior to recording this. So we had kind of reignited our memories. It came back quite easily. So we didn't, a couple of people also thought that there was an album in production back in the day, but there wasn't. We had these songs that we performed live, but we hadn't made any plans to record them as yet. So when I left the band, they all just stayed there and fermented, I guess, in a big vat. And so we had two choices. We could either make them all slick and modernized and iron out the wrinkles and do some rewrites and new lyrics, or get in the time machine and go back to 85 and do it just the way we did. So we chose that. Again, kind of a tribute to that time, 1985, and the bands and the crowds and the clubs and all the wonderful times we had. So that was our methodology, if you will.
So hence the DeLorean on the cover of the album.
Exactly. Brilliant idea by Mr. Hugh Syme, the cover artist, legendary cover artist. We had a little conversation. I explained some of that to him, and he came up with the idea of the DeLorean, which was Back to the Future was 1985 also.
Yeah.
So he hit the nail squarely on the head.
Yeah,
and
very cool.
He did a great job on it. So we got into that time machine and went back to 1985 and laid it down.
Well, I'm glad you didn't do the hot tub version of it. So this looked much cooler.
Good point.
You mentioned it earlier. There is something very familiar and very comforting about these songs from that era, but the production is top notch. So tell me a little about that aspect of it, making it sound so good.
Well, thank you. There's a gentleman in Toronto named Russ McKay, and he's friends with Phil. And he came out to see the band in the day. He used to come see us. So he knew exactly what we were about live and how it sounded live. So having him engineer the record was the perfect choice. On top of it, he's just a grand master, sound engineer, recorder, a mixer. He just did a spectacular job. So having him there in the day, it was easy for him to translate to how it should sound now. And he worked out of Toronto. Phil spent a lot of time in Toronto and did the vocals in Toronto. I was in Nashville in my home studio, and we would use Zoom or FaceTime for a talk back. So I'd have myself, Russ, and Phil doing the vocals on the video window. But then on my music computer, which goes through my stereo playback, we had a software called Audio Movers, and they would connect the output of the recording console to that, and I would get in real time all the way to Toronto, no echo or no delay.
Right.
I'd get a real time version of what they were recording, and I could tell it was real because the talkback, there was an echo on it, because it takes time for me to, as I speak, it takes an eighth of a second for it to get to you right here now. You hear that in recording, but quite magical software by Audio Movers enabled us to work remotely due to the restrictions because of the pandemic. So Phil would be at the mic, Russ would be at the console, I'd be in Nashville with the lyric sheet. We'd coach each other through the thing, and Phil did just an amazing job of it too. So, but I'm really, really pleased that Russ took care of all the recording aspects. You did a quite great job.
He did. Technology is incredible. So that's
Really is.
to you guys for putting it together. Great job.
I was an early adopter of all things digital, and from the very beginning. And it's really, I have a MacBook Air here now that I'm speaking to you on. With just this computer and the right software, you have more than the most expensive elaborate studio there ever was back even 15 years ago. So it's quite amazing.
Yeah. So albums don't cost hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to create anymore. You can do it all in your private studio.
It's a great equalizer. No matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what your skill level is, you are now on the playing field. So I can't guarantee you're going to score, but
True. Did Phil get to hear the full completed album before he passed?
One more time.
Did Phil hear the completed album before he passed?
I am not sure. I believe he did.
Good.
I have to give him beyond extra credit and praise, because while he was singing, we knew there was a problem. There had been a problem.
Right.
We thought everything was okay. We didn't know that things had come out of remission.
Oh.
And while Phil was at the mic, he was shouldering the burden of knowing that he was in trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could go up to a mic or perform on bass at my highest level, knowing that time might be running out here. So for him to do that, I thought was just unbelievably brave, so courageous, and just such inner strength.
Yeah.
And when he stepped up to that mic, he hit it hard as ever. And so we know now that he knew. So that it makes it even more incredible what he pulled off. Pretty amazing. So I do believe you heard the finals. I'm not sure if you heard final mixes, but I know he heard the final performances of his voice, his son in there in harmony, me. I came in and did the harmonies and some dual leads with him and such. But and this album was very important to him. So we really want, and it's important to us now regarding his legacy. We want this record to be a little stamp of absolute legitimacy of the awesomeness of Phil Naro. He really did an amazing job.
And the band, yeah, he did a tremendous job, and it's a great monument or testament to his strength and his resilience and putting it out. And I think fans will appreciate it even more knowing that too. So I agree with
Exactly.
you.
I
You
believe
know,
so.
I have to believe it's bittersweet for you. You got this great release, and then you have Phil, who passed away, who's really not able to enjoy the success of this album and potentially tour. I posted a picture that I was interviewing you today on Twitter, and people were like, "Oh, tell them they have to tour." I was like, "There really can't be a tour for this, right?"
Not necessarily. There's a couple lead singers that we know that love Phil, and
Oh, good.
they're offered to pitch in and maybe go out and do a couple of shows or whatever. We'll see. We'll see. We don't know.
Okay.
Sadly, I had a similar situation with Pat Torpey and Mr. Big
Right, right.
when Pat passed away not too long ago. We already had shows booked, so we went out with a different drummer. Pat was with us, even though he couldn't play drums. He was on stage with a different drummer. Matt Starr was the drummer, great drummer, but he couldn't do the kit anymore. But we wanted him to be with us, so having him on stage was great. But now that he's gone, we did shows without him, and Matt Starr did an amazing job. He's a great drummer. We love him very much, but it's just not the same. It's a different guy, And so we put Mr. Big away for a while. We may do something in the future again. I sure hope so. But it's tough bringing a different guy in, especially under the circumstances of losing someone like that. Replacing someone it isn't quite as traumatic as losing someone than having to bring someone new in. But I love playing with Mark Miller, Talus drummer. It's just amazing. Kire, the guitar player that came in, did a great job. So we'd love to play together again. We will see.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
We certainly would love to. At least do a show or two, just in memory, in loving memory of Phil Naro, maybe in his hometown of Rochester, possibly.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I saw Mr. Big with him, with Pat, before he passed in Newtown Theater. So that was a great experience, and very sad as he passed away kind of shortly after that. So yeah, I was thrilled to see him, and I thought he did a tremendous job.
Yeah, he was probably my closest musical friend of my career. He's really a wonderful, wonderful guy, solid citizen, great dad, incredible husband to his beautiful wife, and what a drummer. I just posted out, I forgot what song it is on my FaceTime, or my Facebook rather, sorry, of just Pat and I doing the song. And I forget, it was some Mr. Big song, I forgot which one it was. And his finesse and the way he moved and the power, his timing, really just a great player. It's sad to lose him, but the good thing about most musicians, once you pass on, all of your work is still there, and you put it on, it's like they're come right back to life again. When I listen to Hendrix, I get the same feeling I got when I listened to it at 16 or 17 years old. It was just music as an art form lives on. It's quite awesome.
I don't know him at all, but when I saw him on stage, he seemed like a jokester and a bit of a character, because I think he was playing the tambourine on one song, and he goes, "I don't really have to move for this," or something like that. He was joking about his own illness, which was very funny, and everybody laughed, and it was just, he seemed like a great guy and a good.
Really was a wonderful guy, and that a lineup of Mr. Big, myself, Paul, Eric, Pat. We went through a lot together. We all had our biggest success together, and incredible memories.
Oh, that's great. With Talus, on the Take, great riff, powerful song. Do you recall writing that one? What was the history behind that one? It's
That was
one
a
of my
Mitch
favorite
Perry
songs.
song. On the Take and Crystal Clear, Mitch Perry brought into the band.
Okay.
We first brought him to Buffalo. We had heard a demo tape and 4 songs, and we liked them all, but the 2 that were most fitting for us to perform were Crystal Clear and On the Take. So we did those. The original demo that Mitch had sent us was him on guitar, of course. Randy Castillo was on drums.
Oh, wow.
and Ralph Morman from Let the Music Do the Talking, Joe Perry, he was the singer. So they've laid out a great template for us to utilize, as you can well imagine. And so we included those, and we wanted to have them on this record. Mitch couldn't be with us on the East Coast, so he remotely did his guitar parts, and we were very pleased to have him along with us. We tried to get Johnny Angel as well, but there was a timing, and he's on the West Coast also, so getting people back and forth in the pandemic situation, it was difficult. So in spirit, he's there, I hope, but we're glad we could get Mitch on the record.
Oh, that's great. Yes. Crystal Clear, another great song you just mentioned. It has a Police vibe to it, almost like Roxanne. Was that an intentional influence?
Well, again, that was a song written by Mitch with Randy Castillo and Ralph Morman. And I don't know, but I instantly loved it. I love the Police.
Yeah.
And there's two songs that I heard on the radio back in the late 70s, I believe, that I actually had to pull my car over the side of the road. Listen, one was Blondie Hanging on the Telephone.
Yeah.
And the other was Roxanne.
Yeah.
I pulled over. And I remember I went to see the Police on their station wagon tour, their very first one. They played this club that we played at all the time. They used RPA and lights too. We left RPA and lights up for them so they could use it. Actually, another band that we played with in the exact same situation, only they opened for us, was U2. We had in that same club. It was a Monday night, and we would always have usually a national act as our opener because we had a big night on that club. And I remember people like, "Who's playing tonight?" And I said, and I always thought some submarine band, something about a submarine, because I'd never heard U2 before. And then I was, "Oh, U2, okay." So they played. They were great. Back in the dressing room was a little string envelope from a guitar string with a thanks very much, signed The Edge. As they were sweet guys, really nice.
Wow.
So in a similar way, the Police played that club, used RPA. We didn't play with them that night, but I remember I stood right in the front to watch that band. I love them so much. So any hint or influence of the Police that may have manifested itself with those guys in LA when they did that demo, I'm very, very pleased about.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. It was particularly in the beginning with your bass playing, very reminiscent of what Sting would typically did in Roxanne. So I picked up on that.
Oh, great. Yeah, Sting, what a great player and singer. I love that band.
Yeah, they're a great band. You work with so many great bands, from David Lee Roth, Mr. Big, Winery Dogs, Talus, Sons of Apollo. How important is it to adapt to all these writing styles seamlessly? Like, for example, you were just explaining what you had to do with Talus. I guess it's different for every single band that you work with. How do you adapt?
Well, I played in the early days of Talus. We were a copy band, and we played just hundreds of songs. We did a show one time where the contract stated we had to play Beatles all night long. So we had 2 hours of Beatles songs, 2 or 3 hours. And we did. We pulled it off. We stretched it a little bit with some George Harrison and Ringo, but we still did all Beatles songs all night long. And that was just the Beatles. And we knew dozens of Stone songs, and Hendrix and Trower and Three Dog Night, Grand Funk Railroad, it's Crosby, Stills and Nash, Neil Young, all kinds of stuff that we played back in the day. A lot of singing. And many different styles and many different tonalities, from King Crimson to Bebop Deluxe, all points in between. And that helps you later on to have a greater vocabulary of things you can do. Just like a language, I look at music very much like a language. When you're learning songs, you're learning all these different stories and how they're told and what the story's about. Is it about the girl? Is it about whatever? And as far as songwriting goes, and as far as your playing goes, in a similar way, you pull back, you push forward, you wait for your spot. There's all kinds of ways to approaching it. And being in a copy band was an incredible blessing in disguise. And a lot of players, when they start, I want to play only original music for my whole life. Well, no one else did. The
I mean,
Beatles didn't, Van Halen didn't, AC/DC didn't, Ronnie James Dio didn't. Nobody starts out with original music. Maybe somebody does, but we hear less about those people because they don't have that background of understanding how to play a song. An actor, actors that I know, they practice scenes from other movies. They practice doing a part that another actor did and try to do that. Copying what came before you is an essential element of creating. We hear all the words and language when we're little kids, and we reprocess it until we can finally spit out our own sentences and our own ideas. That's again a language analogy. I remember I got the very first Beatles demo at a bootleg shop in Japan. I think there were 30 songs on it. Guess how many were originals?
how many?
Not one.
Wow.
Not one original song. And even on their first record, Please Mr. Postman, Twist and Shout, A Taste of Honey, they were essentially a copy band playing in bars in Hamburg, Germany. But look at the writers they became by doing all those copy tunes. It starts to get, you know how to put a chorus with a verse and a verse with a bridge, and how to do a beginning and an ending, and all those things. So similarly, as a player, the same rule applies. If I'm playing Three Dog Night or Grand Funk Railroad or Hendrix or King Crimson or Genesis or Van Halen or AC/DC, you learn how to fit in with great songs by great artists. So when your song comes along, that's a good place to be. So now you can figure out a bass line or an idea for a bass part that fits in with the song, because you've played hundreds of songs by great writers and great artists, and most of the songs we played were hits. You don't play play side 2 or 3 songs in. You play the hit. So it's a good training. So I believe that's been a huge help to me at discovering what I should play, when, where, and how.
No, that's a fascinating response. It's so true, because if you didn't play the cover songs, well, one cover song helps you learn another song and another song and another song. It's like building blocks or steps.
Exactly.
You could never play Iron Maiden without at least going to AC/DC first and understanding Highway to Hell. And then, of course, working your way up to the harder songs. And then, of course, writing songs based upon all the theory that you just learned. So absolutely credible point. Very, very studious of you to notice that. Yeah. You know, and you on this track, on this album, you have a very cool ethereal bass instrumental song. I'm going to read it off. 71 HDH. It's pretty spectacular. Was that written back in the day also, or was that?
No, that was written for Phil, and that's what it says. You turn it upside down. It says for Phil.
Oh, man. I knew there was a significance. I just couldn't figure it out.
And the Talus Sink Your Teeth Into That album, we had NV43345, which is Sheehan upside down.
Which is what?
It's Sheehan upside down. The 5 is an S, the 4s are H's, the 3s are E's.
Clever.
And then there was a Talus live album, and I think we had, I forgot what the numbers went upside down. It was Live Bill, so it was my live solo. So I thought, sticking with tradition, and I wanted to make a statement musically, just as a farewell to our fallen brother, to Phil. So that's what that was for, and it is for Phil. And like I said earlier, this record is really, initially we wanted it to be a tribute to 1985, all the clubs, all the bands, all the crowds. It was an amazing time. Sunset Boulevard was packed with people every night, bands playing everywhere. We want to pay tribute to that, but due to the situation at hand, as it evolved or devolved when we lost Phil, we really want the record to be part of his legacy. And as I said earlier, and so this was my farewell to a dear friend.
I think he totally accomplished that, and kudos to you guys. It was beautiful. You're such an extraordinary bassist, and you've had some success with so many bands. Was there ever a band you auditioned for that didn't accept you or hire you?
I never auditioned. No, I never auditioned. No,
no, that's funny.
That's it's funny because a friend of mine asked me that the other day, who was a musician himself in a very prominent band, and we all laughed about it because I never thought about it before. I never actually had to audition for anything. I just they saw me, they knew me. Okay, you come with us. Okay, cool. So I guess I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. And I have to ask while I have you on, this is the first time I ever spoke to you. Is there still hope of a David Lee Roth, Eat 'em and Smile reunion, live shows, anything that you guys would consider doing together?
I know I'd love to. I believe Steve and Greg would love to. So it's up to Dave. He's still my hero. I still hold him in the highest regard.
Yeah.
And what I've learned from him has been priceless. He gave me the biggest break of my career, and I'm forever grateful. So if we have the opportunity to work with him again, I would love to. Heard nothing about it though, and there's no plan at all. But and I know I'm in great communication with Greg Bissonette and Steve Vai too. We're still this little club. Also, Brett Tuggle, who sadly we lost recently too. He was part of that little gang. We'd always get together and tell stories of back in the days, and it was an incredible friendship struck up from our time in that band that lives on to this day. The last we saw Dave was when we did that thing in a club that the fire marshal shut down in LA. But it was great to see him, great to hang out. It's up to him. If he wants to do it, I think myself, Steve, and Greg would be happy to, but we haven't heard anything. So
I think fans would be overjoyed with that. I think that would be an
Agreed.
incredible show, tour. It would be outstanding. I think it
Yeah,
would sell out everywhere.
I get email about it every single day from all over the world. When are you guys gonna? Do you think that Dave would ever? Almost every day. Honestly, quite amazing. So it's incredible when you put out a record, the kind of impact it can have around the world. I know most musicians realize that later on, but it's I wish I would have known it even earlier, just for the sake of knowing it. You put a record out, and especially a record that becomes very successful, it touches a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
that record meant a lot to a lot of people all over the world. Quite amazing. My first couple times down to South America, they all had the Spanish version. When I go to Mexico, they had the Spanish version for me to sign. And pretty awesome. Similarly with Mr. Big, we were lucky to have such a hit single, and it was #1 in 14 countries. And we go to India, and people would be out of their minds. In Thailand, I get more email from Indonesia than anywhere in the world, and all over South America, Europe. I get email from Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran and all the places that a lot of Americans don't normally spend a lot of time in. Yeah. But that record has made it everywhere. It's quite awesome. So yeah, the Eat 'em a Smile record was made quite an impact, and it would be a wonderful thing if we could play together someday. I'm always trying to stay positive, but we'll see.
Great. Yeah, me too. It's an iconic album, and Talus. You had 2 Talus songs on that album, right?
Just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great song too. Whew.
Yeah, we started it off with that, and I was doing the Ingve tour with this version of Talus that the new record is about, and we started in LA. And the day before that show was the day I went to have a meeting with Dave, and he initially told me there was a movie, and he wanted me in the movie. So I'm, what? So I went there, and I finally met with him. He said, "Well, there is a movie, but I just quit Van Halen. I want to start a band, and let's you and me find a guitar player and drummer." And wow, I was completely overwhelmed. So the next night we had a show in LA at the Palladium, and Dave was there. So a couple of rumors started, but I was sworn to secrecy. So that whole tour, I couldn't say anything to anybody, including the band members, until I got to the end of it. And then Dave flew me out to LA, and we started. He had come to see the band in LA, and then he also saw us in New York City. So he heard us play that song a couple of times. So it was his idea to use it, and man, I'm glad he did.
Oh yeah. Whatever became of the movie?
CBS pulled the plug on the funding. I guess they had a lot of financial problems within the CBS Films. CBS had a spin-off company, CBS Films, and it started to fail, and they started to cut their projects down, and they cut that one. So most of the clothes you see us, the wild clothes you see us wearing in photos and in video, that was all wardrobe from the movies.
Oh, wow. I never heard that story before. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And my last question, I want to be respectful to your time. 2023 will be the Winery Dogs year. You're going to put out the album, and Richie Kotzen said you guys are going to be touring for that.
Yeah, I love the Winery Dogs. It's a
Me too.
riot to play. I love playing with Mike and Richie. It's the new record. We're just over the moon about. Really pleased with it, and they're booking the tour over the last couple of months. Usually you book a year in advance or more sometimes, especially with some festivals. You have to be 18 months out before you can establish your gig. So they've been booking up all over the place. The new record is done, mixed, mastered, the cover is done, the credits are done, all the things that take the most amount of time. It's funny, album covers hold up a record release more than anything else.
More than the music.
I know, the music we haven't done for a long time, oddly, but that's really true. But we got all that together. It'll be out either late this year or early next. Right. And we're going to be playing everywhere that they got a stage and an electrical outlet. We'll plug in and go. So we're very excited about that. And Richie just played in Nashville recently. I got up and played with him, and he joined us for dinner at our home, and we had a wonderful time together. And so I'm looking forward to and playing with Mike as well, bass and drums. He's such a riot to play with. So. Good. It should be a good year next year.
I can't wait. I saw you twice already. I guess for the first album and for the second album, I saw you each time. So I can't wait to see you again.
Great.
And hopefully we can talk for the release. So I'd really love to talk with you again for the release.
Let's do it again. We got our connection here, so let me know if there's anything I can expound upon. You feel free to get in touch, and I appreciate your patience. I know we had a mix-up with our scheduling, but
no worries.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
But thank you so much. It was such a fascinating interview, and I enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. So thank you so much for your time. What a great interview.
Thanks for having me, Robert. We'll see you again, and hopefully out at a Winery Dogs show, and stay in touch, and wishing you the best, my brother.
I wish you to. I will. I'll see you soon. Right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Heavy metal rock.
Global Mind.